Welcome to Intermediate Skinning. This is being done in Max 6. And this DVD takes into consideration that the person working with it has some knowledge of Max, Max's rigging, either has done their own rigging at an intermediate level, or has done rigging DVDs 1 and 2 of my series to explain how the rig works. And as we're not just going to be working with skin in this DVD, we're also going to be adding bones, stretch bones, and adjusting the rig that we have to make it work as we're doing the skinning process. Essentially, skinning isn't a sort of a separate process. It needs to take place with the rig. The rig itself needs to be able to be changed coming the skinning time. You may think you have made the perfect rig, but when it comes down to actually skinning it, it may not work exactly the way you expect. You might not be getting the joints in exactly the right spots. You may have to make adjustments to the mesh itself to make skinning easier or work better. So really, the whole process of setting up a character pipeline is quite a fluid one. This is Bill. This character was done for Sitting Ducks Season 2 with this rig, and was used in production through an entire season of the show. It's relatively similar, the rig, to the ones that were done in DVDs 1 and 2. It uses shape objects that control the character. It has a twist-off system so that the head stays locked. And you can rotate parts of the body separately without affecting others. It uses just a straight IK arm system instead of an IK-FK switching system. This is just done for simplicity's reasons. And we really didn't think we were going to need it. It uses the same sorts of hand setup with control panels, which actually can't be shown because I don't have character was done in version 4 of Max, actually Alpha Max 4, and therefore I had to write some proprietary scripted plugins to get the hand controls and stuff to work properly, and I don't run those anymore, so they don't show up. All of the controls for the feet were actually on screen. I now put them, as you can see in the Ogre rig, I put them into a control panel that just kind of cleans up the interface a bit, as this got really messy, especially with all of the controls, as the feet actually have intermediary bend areas because they're big paddles, big flat paddles with quite a soft flex to them. Character uses 2 rings around the waist. This is something that isn't in the Ogre rig that I showed, but the idea being here is that the inner one doesn't take the hands. The outer one does. This way that you can actually walk cycles and animation that doesn't require the hands to be locked down can be done with the outer ring. However, you can walk the character up to something, place a hand down on something, and then animate the character's main mass with the inner rig, and it'll leave the hands locked down. This is just to avoid having to do link constraints or position orientation constraints on the hands all the time. It's kind of a one-time thing in a scene, but it'll cover about 90% of the cases where it's needed. These characters had to be pumped out really, really fast too, so they were kept quite simple. The rigs only have 1 twist bone in the arm, just because of the you can see the small bone in here, just because of how short the arm was. This is also a problem for the arm for the most part, because they were so short. It was really hard to get any kind of twist out of them without them starting to rip apart. Even if I tried to add more twist bones, it would have been difficult. Skinning this character and getting it to be able to bend and flex correctly was relatively easy. This kind of character is a thin, noodly character for the most part. The short little stubby arms caused a problem, but overall it was relatively easy. I could skin one of these characters in less than a day easily, and get them to work very well in production. The Ogre that we're working with is far more complicated character to work with, and realistically, to do it properly and to have all the kinds of muscle deformation and range of motion that we need in a character like the Ogre, it could take a week to skin that character properly, depending on how much work you wanted to do to it, depending on what it also needed to do in the animation. So skinning can take a lot of time. It can also take very little time, depending on the character entirely. That has to be taken into consideration when looking at and actually planning on a job. How complicated are the characters? That's going to increase modeling time, rigging time, skinning time, and of course animation time. It's also going to increase complexities in the scene, which can lead to more problems in a scene. So all those things really need to be dealt with right from the onset of production, or else you can find yourself stuck in a corner. This DVD is going to cover multiple different areas. We're going to work with envelopes and mirroring first, including and excluding then of vertices, vertex weighting using paint weights and the other methods available. We're going to look at paint blend weights, which in Max 6 is actually a hidden feature, and a script that I have on my site at paulneal.com will allow you to be able to get access to the blend weights, which is like blurring weights and a great tool, and makes it very fast and easy to set up your weighting. Adding muscle bones and using stretchy bones for muscles to get better joint deformations in areas like the shoulder. Tweaking skin, which is an area that I'm just covering where I'm showing what I've done to it and the changes I've made without having to have you sit through it all, just painting and tweaking all the weights, and I then discuss what I did to show you how to get to that point. Show you how to use deformers on the elbows and on the knees of the character, and then showing you how to work with dynamic spring controllers on the belly so that the belly bounces automatically. And then I'll show you also how to write a script for turning off all of the spring controllers in a scene, because they are time dependent and can get quite slow during animation, so you need to be able to shut them down while you're animating and then turn them on for animation. The last chapter will be the skin utilities, and we'll show you how to extract the skin data from one mesh and apply it to another, or in this case actually from the right side to the left side of a character if they weren't identical and the mirror tool was not able to be used. I hope you enjoy the DVD, and on to our first chapter.